Welcome to Help Your Math. We're going to look at linear equations here, and in this particular linear equation we have a fraction that we would like to get rid of. So a lot of us don't really like dealing with fractions, and we could get rid of them right at the beginning, or we can get rid of it at the end, towards the end. Let's take a look at what it looks like in both instances. So in terms of getting rid of it at the beginning, what we can do is we can multiply by the denominator. And the reason why this works is that if we multiply this by 8, then the 8's will cancel and we'll just be left with a 7 over here. And as long as we're making the equation hold true by doing the same thing to both sides and multiplying both sides by 8, we're okay. We can do that. Or we can wait until we distribute this 7/8 and then we can multiply everything by 8. So let's just take a look at what it looks like in both cases. So let's start by multiplying by 8. So if we multiply the left side of the equation by 8, then the 8's on the left cancel, and we don't have to worry about multiplying this 3x minus 1 by 8 because this 7 over 8 would normally get distributed, and what we're doing is we're getting rid of the 8 before we're distributing. And once we get rid of the 8 and we're left with the 7, we're still going to distribute that. We're just saving ourselves a step here, okay? But what we have to do is we do have to multiply the right side of the equation by 8. Otherwise, the equality does not hold true anymore. So what we're left with is 7 times 3x minus 1 is equal to, and on the right, we would just multiply the constants. So 7 times 8 is 56. Okay. Distribution only holds when what's inside the parentheses is one step lower in the order of operations. So we distribute here because we have parentheses, and on the outside is multiplication, on the inside is subtraction. When we're just multiplying all of our numbers, there's no distribution here. Even if there were parentheses, there's no distribution because the mathematical operation that we're using is the same throughout. So we only need to multiply our numbers, and we get 7 times 8 is 56. So we get 7 times 3x minus 1 is equal to 56x. Now we can distribute the 7. And what we get here is 21x minus 7 is equal to 56x. Okay, so what happens from here? Let's go back to the beginning and take a look at this a different way. Some people may not be comfortable starting off multiplying by 8 because they're not sure, well, okay, but what goes away? And why am I multiplying when there are parentheses? What do I have to multiply by 8? So some of you are going to be more comfortable distributing the 7/8 first, which is absolutely fine. So let's just go back. I'm going to put a line in between this, okay? And we'll just say another option. Let's distribute first. So if we distribute first here, then what we get is 7/8 times 3x. Well, 7/8 times 3x is going to give us 21 over 8. So this 3, I'm going to just rewrite this. 7/8 times 3x minus 1 is equal to 7x. So our goal here is to multiply the 7/8 times the 3x minus 1 first. So we get 7 times 3 over 8 minus 7 times, there's an x here, 7 times 1 over 8. And you can skip this step. This is just to break it up for those of you who like having it broken up first. So 7 times 3 is just 21. Notice this is like a 3 over 1 and a 1 over 1. So when you multiply fractions, you're multiplying the numerators and then you're multiplying the denominators. So that's where we got 7 times 3. And then this is like an 8 times 1. Okay, and 8 times 1 is 8. So what we wind up here with here is 21 over 8x minus 7 over 8 is equal to 7x. Now what we would do is we would multiply everything by 8 here. Okay, so at this point, we would multiply by 8 instead of at our very first step. And when we multiply, we need to multiply everything on one side, okay? And everything on the other side. The reason why we didn't have to do that here is because we had the parentheses, okay? So when we're multiplying the whole side by 8. And we're multiplying this whole side by 8. The whole point is to keep the equality true. So you can't multiply just a piece of it by 8, okay? The whole side. Here, we did multiply the whole side by 8. We just did it earlier. We saved ourselves the step of distributing with a fraction, okay? Because we knew that this was going to get distributed afterwards. So here, the 8 will cancel in both of these fractions. And what we're left with is the same thing that we got on the other side. 21x minus 7 is equal to 56x. So you can see that this way is a little bit longer. Okay, and you are dealing with more fractions. This way is a little shorter. There's actually no, other than that, there's no advantage of one method over the other. Okay, it's whatever you're comfortable with. So at this point, we have a linear equation where we need to solve for x. We don't have any fractions anymore. So we still need to get the x's on one side and the constants on the other. Now we already have a constant on only one side. So it makes sense to move the x to the side that we don't have the constant on. So in other words, our -7 is already on the left. There's really no point in moving it to the right. We may as well get rid of this 21x on the left and save ourselves some time. So does this inverse operations, this 21x is positive. To get rid of it, we can subtract it from both sides. Positive 21x minus 21x is just 0, so we accomplished what we needed to. That means that on the left, we're left with a -7 is equal to 35x. And now again, we're using inverse operations here, so we can divide both sides by 35. We're dividing by 35 because we want to get x by itself, so we need to get rid of this 35. We're multiplying x by 35, so to get rid of it, we divide by 35, inverse operation. The 35 cancels. And I happen to like my x's on the left just by habit. So we have x is equal to negative 7 over 35. But remember, we're not done yet because 7 and 35 have a factor in common, and we want to reduce our fractions as much as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to find that common factor. That common factor is 7. So we're going to divide both the top and the bottom by 7. And we get negative 1 over 5 in reduced form. Okay, there was a common factor of 7. So the fraction could be reduced.